Good day, everyone. My name is CommanderN, and I am here to show how to play a game that I hope to play more of in the future. This is going to be Hearts of Iron Darkest Hour. Well, a Hearts of Iron game. And with me to show you how the game goes is my friend Tim of Timpedia.
Yeah. Now I have no idea how to play this game. I have a friend who loves this game. I don't get it. So I'm here to be a student and have Nick teach me how the hell to play this thing.
Well, let's get to it then. So the first thing here in the menus is that you have several scenarios. This is
Okay.
where you pick the different timelines. Like here we have the Great War, which is World War One to those who don't know, and 1936, and even the start of the war, or even closer to the end as well. And so we're just gonna pick here, and some of the options like difficulty determines things like some of the resources that you get and whether you get certain bonuses or not. AI aggressiveness is kind of self-explanatory. Like the more difficult, the more aggressive they'll be, and the speed is basically this is a real-time strategy game that's pausable. So, and at the same time, you can also adjust speeds as well.
Okay.
Share countries, I think that's a multiplayer thing where you could, if I remember right, you could have like one person control the military and someone else control the uh, uh, domestic affairs of the nation.
Nick, I'm
Auto
gonna mute
sa-
myself for a sec. Keep going.
okay, auto save is basically when you can auto save. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. Um, the everyone can start war thing. The thing about that is, in this version that we're playing is Darkest Hour. In this version, democracies like the United States or the United Kingdom cannot declare war on anyone whenever they want. There has to be a certain belligerence level, which we'll get into later. This option basically turns that off and lets anyone declare war. Uh, Scenarios have end dates, or you could just set it to however long you want, whether you want to play.
So, okay, so I didn't see it right away. So basically most of these scenarios are designed to run for a certain length of time, or you can just tell it how long to run.
Yes, in a way, like the World War One 1914 scenario, and goes from 1914 to 1920. However, if you set it to 28 years, then you're going to be going ahead to the early 40s.
Jeez. Imagine if World War One lasted 28 years.
I've heard about a game where World War One went on forever,
Oh my god.
and full IC takeover. When you conquer countries, you get all their IC and
What's
tech team.
IC?
Oh, industrial capacity. We will be getting into that too as soon as we get in, and also with the tech teams. These two options just basically mean that when you conquer a country, then you'll get all that stuff rather than a fraction of it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so sorry about that. We just I forgot that the
Apparently, loading in just kills the recording for the game. I don't know why.
yeah, it sucks. This game is kind of an older one. Okay, so here we have the start of the scenario,
Yeah,
December
isn't there a third game in this series?
Hearts of Iron 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is different in many respects. And in fact, it even is on a different engine. This
Oh boy.
is this is the Europa engine for this game that we're playing, and that one is the Clausewitz engine.
Now, is that engine just called Europa, or is that also related to the Europa Universalis series?
That is your related to the Europa Universalis because I think Europa Universalis was the first game.
Okay, because I've
And
never played that game, but I keep seeing that series pop up in like Steam sales and stuff like that.
yeah, to my knowledge, I think it started Europa Universalis, and I think Europa Universalis 2, then Hearts of Iron 1, and then I think Hearts of Iron 2 later, then Victoria, and then Crusader Kings came along in there at some point.
Oh,
So
so that's all the. Oh, that's all, it's all Paradox Interactive, isn't it?
yeah, though those four games, Hearts of Iron, Europa Universalis Victoria, and Crusader Kings, are their essentially flagship games, if you will. Sort of like what Call of Duty is to Activision or something like that.
Gotcha.
So here we have the start date. Basically, the victory condition for the standard scenario here is if we go here, we have victory. We have these provinces, which are divisions of the game. And these ones here, as you can see, like London, which is green, as opposed to Norwich or Oxford,
Kind of
which
like a
isn't.
yellowish.
Yeah, basically the green here, these are victory points. And as you can see, London has 5. And basically, the alliance with the most victory points at the end of the timeline wins.
So
So,
the ones you want to capture are like these super dark yellow ones, right?
yes, like I want to take Dublin and Cork, although that wouldn't benefit me much because those are only 2 points, as opposed to Germany, where I take Berlin and I get another 5, and so on. But,
Gotcha.
and also, capturing these victory provinces will also help you defeat your enemies easier, which
Gotcha.
we'll go into that a little bit. Policies, we'll get into that, and decisions. Okay, for the maps here, we have terrain map mode, where, as you can see, we have urbans, and they have different color codes. These different terrain is important in combat. Like, your vehicles are going to be less effective in urban centers, and especially in mountainous terrain, like we have the Alps over here.
Mm-hmm.
And however, they will be much better off in plains. And also, there are other effects, like if we scroll over here to the Far East, like Indochina has a bunch of jungle. China is full of mountains and hills and all sorts of other terrain, and there's a whole bunch of desert here in Mongolia, and especially in the Middle East and Africa and such. So certain terrain effects will hamper your unit's abilities to fight, although certain units, technologies, and generals can help mitigate that. So now we have political map mode, which is just basically the colors of each country around the world. Like we control India here and much of Africa and so on, and then we have the weather map mode, which I guess it which also plays into the terrain effects for units at times. Like as we could see, most of Scandinavia and Russia and the Baltics are pretty much all frozen over, and everyone else is
I
more
mean, it seems like you're
temperate.
pretty much starting in summer, so I'm also guessing it changes with seasons and stuff like that.
Yeah, it does. And then economic map mode, which the thing about the economics of this game is that there are several key resources up here at the top. You have energy, metals, and rare materials, which go into industrial capacity, which is the main resource to manufacture everything that we'll get to that into more details on that in the economy screen, but basically that's for that. And oil, which is then converted into fuel. Where is that? Hmm. Well, anyway, and then we have supplies, which are necessary for all of our military units. And then we have money, which is necessary for diplomatic actions, sometimes certain events and decisions, and also intelligence. Manpower, which you need to create new military units. Nukes, which is far off, so you don't even have to worry about that. And dissent, which represents the um, internal disagreements within your government. If it gets too high, then you'll start getting partisans rising up in various provinces. and I think it'd even be easier for other nations to coup your nation, which is not really a good thing. And then transport capacity um, is basically it represents the uh, means of transportation for military units. Like you could do this thing called strategic redeployment, which is faster than making your units actually march to the province. Like here we have this unit, and we're gonna send them. What I did is that I held control and then I right clicked on the province, which brings up this menu, and you could set orders like I could have them attack, and then I could even set the time, like the hour, the day, the month, and even the year, or just click that, and then we can see that they'll arrive there on the 8th. However, if I move them up, they'll get there a day later. Well, anyway, this map is the supply map mode, which just basically shows that where we're getting supplies adequately. Which a unit, if they're not receiving any supplies, will not fight effectively, and
Oh boy.
could even suffer damage.
Yikes.
Well, at least they'll suffer damage more intensely against enemy fire than if they were well supplied.
Yeah.
So having like if I were to have these forces attack Ireland here, I would need either Belfast or Londonderry to have a cache of supplies, and usually it'd probably be Belfast, and they'd have to send it over there. Otherwise, as it's both red, my men wouldn't have any means of being supplied there, so it'd be a tougher fight.
Gotcha.
Partisan map mode, basically green is good, red is bad. Um, region map mode, the map is divided into various regions, and same with areas. And then diplomatic map mode, the provinces with the red dots symbolize cores of our nation. Basically, in some ways, if a nation has certain cores on certain provinces, that is, in other instances, we could release nations within those core provinces. Like if Germany takes over France here and annexes them, and then we go in and take it back, then they have the cores here, so we could like release them in all these provinces.
Gotcha.
And there are also other provinces. Well, I wonder if there is a way I could show example of this, where basically another nation has claims, although I don't think I'm seeing it for anywhere. Oh, here we go. Austria has a claim on this province in Czechoslovakia, and Győr in Hungary. Probably shouldn't even try pronouncing that. Anyway, and now they also claim parts of Romania and the Slovak area
Wow,
here.
it's like half their size is, or even more, is claimed by other people.
Yeah, it is. Technically, at this point, and if we go back in the political memo, you can see that they had claimed most of these areas had claims or cores on them,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah,
only like a third that size. Stuff like that can happen a few times, and so that's basically that. Now up here, view provinces that we control and decisions, which weren't in the original Hearts of Iron 2, yet are a big part of this game, as well as newer Paradox games. Basically, um, our decisions are player activated events, which events are situations in the game, usually based around some kind of historical context or something that sets up a situation of something going on. basically, like Germany will get an event here real soon where they remilitarize the Rhineland and so on. And basically, um, Excision is an event version of that. Like here, we have issue currency. A monetary authority can print new money to solve our budget problems without having to borrow, so on and so on. And then this is basically what an event looks like. It'll have this form where it'll show the event name, the description, and then we can even have an activation button which will cause an effect. Like here, we can reduce our national descent by 1, get 800 money, and lose our industrial efficiency total, which industrial efficiency is part of industrial capacity, like how we actually have 120 capacity, we can only technically use 75 because the
It's
tech of
not very efficient.
yeah. So and then shift to left, let's do it. So those are decisions. This is basically where we can view all of our armies, where they're all at, what they're all doing. Now, these units here um, that have the red circle with the slash, they've been locked and they can't be moved or anything until a certain event happens that allows that to happen.
Okay.
They become even more common in a lot of the battle scenarios. And then
Yeah.
here are basically all of our air units. And the thing about air units is that if they have no fuel, they're not moving,
Yeah, that makes sense.
from what I've noticed. And then here we have all of our navies. Um, and here are this screen here, the deploy units from force pool. This will show you units that are being strategically redeployed, and also when you complete new units, you will go into this menu to bring them out. Active combats, well there aren't any. And now, for these menus, we have the intelligence screen, which is basically just intelligence, sending spies to other nations and finding out what's up, like Abyssinia here. We can see that our intelligence is working at 22%, and we can find out information like we are guessing that they're focusing production towards supplies. We can estimate that they have this much resources, 52 infantry divisions, and not much of anything else. And then we can even increase our intelligence, which will then let us perform better missions against any nation. And then here are some of the missions. Like here's industrial espionage, where we could steal blueprints. Blueprints help with technology because when you have a blueprint for a certain tech and you're researching it, it makes the technology researching go faster.
Makes sense.
Which there are actually several other effects that can determine how fast the technology is researched, and we'll get to that in a moment. Assassinate minister, and we can launch a smear campaign, which will increase dissent, and sabotage industry, which will slow production. Fund partisans, which will increase revolt risk in a particular province. Global manipulation, which increases the belligerence, which goes back to what I was talking about declaring war with
Yeah.
necessary belligerence. The thing about that is that if we go over here to the diplomacy, which is also the political view of our nation, over here at the bottom there's an interventionism and isolationism. Since we're a democratic state, we cannot declare war, and in or out of the blue, and in order to declare war on a nation, we need the other nation has to have 49 belligerents.
Okay.
So and Austria has 0. As you can see right here, belligerence
Yeah.
is 0. In fact, nope, they don't have any either yet. Anywho, um, so then, uh, and then sabotage tech team, which basically slows down research. Coup Nation, you need quite a bit of money for that, and it isn't even recommended unless they have
Yeah.
if they have unless they have really high dissent, then I think it would work. And nuclear sabotage, which allows you to destroy a nuclear device that they have, but nobody has a tech now for that either, so it
Yeah, no
doesn't
one had
matter.
that in World War One.
Well, technically this is the pre-World War II scenario, but
Oh right, duh.
semantics. Now, here is technology screen. What we have here is that we have several tech teams, which the tech teams are based on various famous individuals, organizations, businesses, and other such things that played a role in advancing their respective nations in various fields, like Alan Turing here, who was a famous computer scientist from the UK. And here are certain technologies, like we have infantry, which basically allows us to research technologies for new infantry units, armor and artillery for better tanks and guns, naval for better ships, aircraft for better planes. Overview just basically gives us some information of what we have, like enemies can dig in, and our research speed is at 53%, and just some other stuff about current statistics are here, like our most advanced unit models, and then these are all the brigades that we can build. And then over here, air, naval, and land doctrines. Just as important it is to have the most modern units, it's also important to have modern doctrines for them to fight with.
My
Like,
God.
having first strike here will increase the night attack organization morale, which we'll get into that stuff soon on your fighters. And then naval doctrine, which increases uh, statistics on the ability to fight for your ships, and
Now,
land
why
doc.
was why are the some of them grayed out or redded out?
Oh, some of these, okay. Texts that are grayed out, we have to research the prerequisite text before we could get them. The ones that are read out are read because we basically it's a check tree where we chose the different options, so we can't research that by virtue of the fact that we went down a different tree.
So it's
So
one or the other. So you can get leading by orders or leading by task, but you can't have both.
exactly, and if you hover over the tech, you can see right here, leading by orders 1907, deactivate text leading by task.
Yeah,
So
gotcha,
basically, if it's read out, it means that we went the other path.
gotcha.
And also, if it's also read out, like the secret weapons here, the difference between these and the other texts is that you have to have specific research activated, and in some instances you also have to have specific events happen. Like, I think pretty soon we should be able to uh, get an event that will let us research some rocket stuff. I can't remember exactly, but and then so the doctrines help your units fight better. Industry is all about improving your industrial capacity um, and industrial multiplier energy to oil, which basically you could take with this tech tree, you could take energy and make oil out of it.
Oh, cool.
And in and custom equipment, this was actually new for Darkest Hour, which basically allows you to research these texts, and then you go through the decision, which does cost some IC and IC production efficiency and stuff, because you're dedicating your industry to manufacturing these equipment, which lets all your units fight better in the mentioned terrain effects of the equipment here. and nuclear research. So basically, this goes to researching for industrial stuff, more manpower growth, and trickle back as you gain casualties in battle. Not all the manpower lost is destroyed, so to speak. Some of it goes back to your manpower pool, which can then go back to helping you create new units or reinforcing the ones you already have. So
Gotcha.
basically, what I had Mr. Turing here do is research this tech. Now, technologies have components like the basic computing machine has mathematics, electronics, mechanics, and management, and he fits three of these. So if we take a look here, he has three, and most of the other techs have two or one. So except for English Electric Company, but they're only skill 7 and he's skill 9. So in all reality, he is the best choice because um, you notice the green square
Yeah, that
highlighted.
means they're working a project that's good.
Yeah, that means that basically they have expertise in those particular components that the technology is, or that the technology has. So like he's good at mathematics, electronics, and mechanics, which are also part of this tech's components,
Yeah,
so it'll increase efficiency there. And the skill is skill 9, which means he'll work faster, but also at the same time, research also costs money, and the higher the skill, the more money it's going to cost.
gotcha.
There is a slider here, the free market and central planning. If you go further to free market, tech team salaries will increase, and if you go to central planning, tech team salaries will decrease. So that's also how you could manipulate that. Or also we have Enfield Arsenal, who seems to be a good pick for researching 1936 infantry. So that's technology. Now economy, as you can see, we're building a whole bunch of stuff here. Um, basically, we can manufacture uh, ground divisions or land divisions, all of our military units like Marines and cavalry and such, and the brigades that we can attach to them, which have certain bonuses that can be added. And here we can produce airplanes and air bases, and we have flotilla, which allows us to build our ships, and we can also build naval bases. And we could also build anti-air radar. The anti-air radar, nuclear, and rocket sites are all put on provinces, and convoys and escorts are used for naval shipping. Like you know how I told you about if we had forces here and how they had no supplies.
Yeah, I gotcha.
We'd have to have some convoys send supplies over there, and also escorts are there to help protect the convoys from enemy interdiction from subs. So over here we have our resources again showing us all that we have now. Industrial capacity, we have 120 base IC, 75 actual, so we have 75 to work with here. Now, these numbers represent the needed, uh, the needs of how much IC is needed and what is actually getting put in. So, with production, it needs 1.8 IC for all of these ships that we're working on here. So we can just slide that down a little bit. And, or for reinforcements here, we need more. And basically you could just fill this around to what you feel like. And if your production slider is too low, then your units are going to take a long, then everything you're building is going to take longer to build, or
If you're above, is it faster, or is it like red is slow, everything bonus is just bonus?
um well, it's actually
Oh my
I don't
god, that was a lot of stuff.
yeah, basically just a bunch of events that brought up, and I think something about diplomatic deals. Um well, red basically means that production is stopped, and green, as far as producing actual units, it doesn't increase, it doesn't make it go faster necessarily for production if you increase it above that. What happens though is that you basically get wasted IC, and wasted, that may sound bad at first, however at the same time it also could be kind of good because um, the energy, metals, and rare materials, it costs 2 energy, 1 metal, and 1/2 rare materials for each IC. And if you have a shortage of those resources, you could change your sliders here to have wasted IC, which will have more resources getting put back in, so not all of them will be spent on industrial capacity and you could save up. But
Gotcha.
so here, if production is below the needed level, production will either just stop or slow down drastically. If supply, so long as you keep supplies above needed level, then you won't see much of a decline unless you just build so many supplies that you go over your max stockpile of 13,267, which will then start to decrease anyway. And in consumer goods, if this is below the needed level, then you will start to get descent. So it's
Mm.
best to keep consumer goods above the need level at all times if you can. So, and then like we could go through, and now the thing about these units here, for example, the 1931 infantry, the organization, which is basically how organized they are when they fight, because when units fight, they not only take actual damage to their strength, but also their organization. Like we have the strength, which is the red bar, and organization, which is the green bar. And if your organization reaches 0, even if your division is still at full strength, they will be broken and will retreat or be defeated. So, or basically the high organization there is pretty necessary. Morale deals with organization regeneration. If you have pretty high morale, then your organization will regenerate faster, so then you could have your units go back into the fight quicker. And softness is about, goes into how the attack values work. Like we have soft attack 10, hard attack 1, and so if I remember right, another division like this, which has 100% softness and 10 soft attack, would then do 10 damage to that unit. However, if we attached a medium armor brigade, then the softness is dropped to 95%, and then that the attacking division would not get as much damage out of it from the soft attack. And then hard attack is damage against armored vehicles like tanks and armored cars and such. Soft attack is against regular infantry and such. I think it's kind of uh, 100% softness where you would get most damage out of the soft attack, and the less softness you have, the more damage from hard attack it would take to do any real damage along with soft attack. So it's good to have a good combination of soft attack and hard attack units.
Gotcha.
And then air attack is basically attack against air. I'm still I'm still kind of don't really know like the deep inner secrets of the combat system myself.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of calculation going in. Okay, defensive and I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was called something like toughness or something before, but I can't actually remember what the vulnerabilities are. Unless that means like the damage they can take from that unit, whether they're on an offensive or defensive. And suppression is when you have problems with dissent and the revolt risk of partisans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say London here, well, partisan activity, base revolt risk is 0, currently suppressing is 0. What suppressing does is that it reduces the revolt risk. Um, Garrisons with military police are exceptionally good at keeping suppression on for keeping the partisans away. Max speed is basically how fast the unit can go. Um, if you have like an entire army group, the the unit will go as fast as its slowest one, and also certain brigades can reduce the speed. Like like here, normal infantry division has a max speed of 6, and the super heavy artillery brings it down to 4.
Gotcha.
So, and then basically supply consumption, fuel consumption is how much of those resources they need. And then over here, we have the cost. We have the cost and then the serial and parallel runs. Serial runs are basically multiple units at once, and parallel ones is one unit. Okay, so serial ones is like I could create 99 units, and then parallel ones would be I could create one unit 99 times, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, and then basically it takes so many days. The cost it takes so many days to develop requires so much IC and so much manpower, and but it doesn't take that all right away. It only has the cost in manpower, especially for each unit. So once you complete a uh, oh wait, also about your question about making production faster, I forgot about the gearing bonus. When you put units on a wait, let's see here. When you put units on a parallel run, um, oh wait, no, that was the wrong thing. Oops. Boy, this certainly is going well. Okay,
Well, it's
so
complicated enough. I think that at least comes across. So,
yeah. Anyway, so when we complete our division here, as you can see, it said here we have a gearing bonus of 0 to 29 out of 29. Once we get more gearing bonus from producing the same unit over again, the production speed actually goes up, so it'll actually be made a little faster. And that's all I can really say on production here. We also get information about our convoys, like all of the convoys we have and where they're where they're going from and to. We have a convoy here that's going from Exeter to Hong Kong, and uh, green means that there's a large enough stockpile so that it doesn't need a run. However, some of these here, like from Colombo to Exeter, can't really happen because they need more transports and such. So, and then we could create new convoys and such. And over here, a lot of things we could do. Some of the things we can do in this game can also be automated. Like, if you want to just have the game stockpile resources, it'll also make trades automatically to do that for you. And you can even
Okay.
enable the AI to manage some of the IC stuff.
Huh.
So usually I prefer to just keep it under my control, but that is an option if you want to. And then we touched a little bit on diplomacy earlier. However, a bit more in depth, we have all of our ministers here, the head of state, head of government, and each of these individuals have different personality traits, as we can see, like George V, who's a stern imperialist, or John Simon, who's a crime fighter, and these traits give certain bonuses to um, their respective minister. Like the stern imperialist has consumer goods need minus 5%, which that basically means that I can invest less IC in consumer goods without having to worry about the rising revolt risk. Units take less to build, but descent growth rate increases. Oh well. Anyway, and then here we have the sliders, which let us set how our government is set up. Like we have democratic or authoritarian, and we have political left, political right. The political left and political right, all it does is it kind of sets an opposite effect. Like if we were authoritarian and right, then we would be fascist, or authoritarian and left, then we'd be communist. And open society, closed society, which just are you looking for something?
No, I'm sorry. Was I on your screen? Whoops. Sorry.
It's okay.
No,
I just
no, I
noticed
didn't
the
mean to do.
mouse move.
No, I was not trying to do anything.
Okay, free market and central planning and
Yeah,
all
for those of you
this.
who don't know, I'm currently watching all this via TeamViewer, so
Yeah, and then mobilization, demobilization, which isn't in other versions. It's kind of a new thing for this game where basically my manpower is actually really low. And what I could do is that I could go in here and I could prolong terms of service, which 3-year subscription, make it so. So then now all of a sudden my manpower pool has just jumped sky high from 12 to 764. And now if we look back at mobilization, we were close to demobilized earlier, but now we're like middle of the road. And then Hawk lobby or Dove lobby, which shows the view of war in the country. So if we increase it more towards Hawk lobby, diplomatic action costs are decreased, more money from consumer goods and dissent growth. And then interventionism and isolationism. This is the important part again because of declaring war. Depending on your place on the slider, like closer to intervention, you could do more things like set up alliances, guarantee other nations, and also again with the declaration of war belligerence, now we only need 39 as opposed to what we needed before. And you can change this option, you could change one of these options once per year. So now I'd have to wait till January 5th. Well, actually, in this version, it's a little different because I'd have to wait till 38. But before it used to be 37. Usually, you have to wait a couple of years before you could set an option like this again.
okay.
So, and then we go on to statistics. We got a whole bunch of numbers here like victory progress. The United States and the Soviet Union are competing for the most victory points on the game, with myself following in right behind them. And then, uh, and then basically we just get a whole bunch of information like army modifiers, various unit modifiers, statistics and such, ships, air wings, total maintenance costs for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, various pie charts and comparisons and such like that. Basically, just kind of give you an overview of everything that's going on. So then the next part will be just oh, and also here at each province you could sort of you get sort of an overview of what you could do with each province. You could build up provincial improvements um, like more industrial capacity and infrastructure. Infrastructure, which is important because it allows you to move units through faster. Like you'll be able to move through a 100% province faster than a 70%, and so on. And that'll be it for this part, and then we'll get into combat in a little bit.
Oh my god.